Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm TGK Andre. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. President Trump and President Putin agreed to begin ceasefire talks in Middle East, White House says. House GOP moves to impeach judge who blocked Trump's Tren de Aragua deportation flights. President Trump's surprise JFK files release triggers overnight scramble at DOJ. Stranded NASA astronauts begin return to Earth after 9 months in space. Treasury Secretary Bessent optimistic on trade talks as tariff deadline approaches. GM and NVIDIA partners to drive AI integration in next-generation vehicles and factories. Ceasefire ends as Israel resumes strikes on Gaza following Hamas's refusal to release hostages. French police evict hundreds of migrants from Paris Theater after months of squatting. And now, to the news. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a 90-minute phone call on Tuesday, during which they discussed ending the war in Ukraine and initiating ceasefire negotiations in the Middle East, the White House announced. The two leaders agreed that negotiations will begin immediately in the Middle East to establish a framework for peace. In a statement following the discussion, the White House emphasized the importance of a lasting peace and improved U.S.-Russia relations, stating, "The blood and treasure that both Ukraine and Russia have been spending in this war would be better spent on the needs of their people." As a first step towards de-escalation, Presidents Trump and Putin agreed to a temporary ceasefire on energy infrastructure, along with technical discussions on a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea. President Putin reportedly accepted President Trump's proposal for a mutual 30-day pause in strikes on energy facilities and ordered his military to comply. Additionally, Russia will return 23 seriously wounded Ukrainian soldiers to Kiev as a goodwill gesture, according to Russia's TASS news agency. The call also focused on Middle East stability, with both leaders agreeing on the need to prevent the spread of strategic weapons and to engage with other nations to stop future conflicts. The White House noted that both leaders shared the view that Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel, reinforcing a broader commitment to regional stability. Putin reportedly conditioned a full cessation of hostilities on the U.S., halting military aid to Ukraine, though the U.S. State Department maintains that the ball is now in Russia's court. A U.S.-backed proposal for a 30-day ceasefire, negotiated last week in Saudi Arabia, remains on the table, with Ukraine already agreeing to the terms. This marks the second major call between the presidents this year, following a February conversation covering Ukraine, energy, artificial intelligence, and U.S.-Russia relations. While both leaders acknowledged their nation's historical wartime alliance in World War II, President Trump stressed that their immediate priority is to end the ongoing war in Ukraine and prevent further loss of life. With negotiations set to begin, the coming weeks will determine whether these ceasefire discussions lead to a lasting peace agreement. Let's take a look.
Hour-and-a-half call was the first known conversation between the two leaders since Ukraine backed a U.S. proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. The conversation also comes after President Trump said he and Russia were discussing dividing up, quote, certain assets of Ukraine. Notably absent from that call, Ukrainian President...
House Republicans have introduced articles of impeachment against U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg after his ruling halted President Donald Trump's deportation flights of Tren de Aragua, gang members under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The resolution, filed by Representative Brandon Gill of Texas, accuses Boasberg of abusing judicial power, interfering with the executive branch, and jeopardizing national security. His resolution specifically condemns Boasberg's emergency order, which forced the administration to turn around mid-air deportation flights carrying Venezuelan gang members classified as foreign terrorists. President Trump endorsed the impeachment effort in a Truth Social post, calling Boasberg a radical left lunatic and arguing that the ruling undermines the will of the voters. He accused the judge of deliberately obstructing his administration, saying, "This judge, like many of the crooked judges I'm forced to appear before, should be impeached." Boasberg's 14-day restraining order, issued Saturday night, came in response to lawsuits from human rights organizations who argue that Venezuelans with legitimate asylum claims could be wrongfully deported. The Trump administration has pushed back, claiming the ruling overstepped judicial authority with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stating that deportation flights had already departed before the ruling was formally written. Boasberg, however, challenged that defense in court, questioning whether the order should apply even to planes already in international airspace. Representative Gill, House Judiciary Committee member, confirmed he would discuss the impeachment process with Chairman Jim Jordan and push for a formal House vote. The impeachment effort comes as other House Republicans threaten similar action against judges blocking Trump's executive orders, setting up a potential Supreme Court showdown over the limits of judicial intervention in executive immigration policies. Watch this.
Roberts said in a statement, quote, impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. Recently, he called for the impeachment of a U.S. district judge, President Trump that is, who blocked the deportation of Venezuelan migrants.
The Justice Department's National Security Division worked through the night following President Donald Trump's surprise announcement that all remaining JFK assassination files would be released unredacted on Tuesday afternoon. President Trump made the unexpected declaration Monday evening while visiting the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, catching federal agencies off guard and triggering an urgent DOJ-wide effort to meet the deadline. Within 30 minutes of Trump's announcement, the DOJ's Office of Intelligence, responsible for handling foreign surveillance and classified intelligence, shifted its focus to reviewing the files. According to sources, the FBI had already conducted an initial declassification review, but Trump's demand for a completely unredacted release led DOJ attorneys to conduct a second review overnight. Attorneys from across the National Security Division were pulled into the emergency project, working into the early morning hours, with only those handling impending arrests or urgent national security matters exempt from the effort. A Justice Department spokesman did not immediately respond to requests for comment. During his Monday remarks, the president emphasized that he did not want any redactions, stating, "I said, just don't redact. You can't redact." He acknowledged the sheer volume of material, telling the audience there's a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading. President Trump had previously signed an executive order in January directing the full and complete release of all remaining JFK assassination records to end the decades-long secrecy surrounding the 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Let's take a look.
Make it beautiful. It's a very big part of the fabric of D.C. and the Capitol. We're bringing back the Capitol. We're bringing back our country. But while we're here, I thought it would be appropriate. We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow. We have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading. I don't believe we're going to redact anything. I said, just don't redact. You can't redact. But we're going to be releasing the JFK files, and that would be tomorrow. Do you have anything else to add to that, Carolyn? So that's a big announcement. They've been waiting for that for decades. Then I said during the campaign I'd do it, and I'm a man of my word. So tomorrow you have the JFK files. What time will they be released?
More stories after this break. Don't go away.
Alpha TV, The Higher Life is here. Watch your favorite movies.
Hi, Dimitri.
Kiddie shows, live TV channels, and many more. Anywhere, anytime on your device. With a unique emphasis on faith-based and family-oriented programming. Alpha TV is the place which points you to the higher life. Gain access to myriads of language channels available to family, friends, and loved ones in their native tongue.
Avete mai sentito dei cristiani che pregano grazie Padre dopo che hanno pregato per aver risposto a queste preghiere mediante Gesù Cristo nostro Signore? Amen.
Get this amazing entertainment on the Loveworld App Store, the Google Play Store, and the Apple Store, and begin to live the higher life. Watch Alpha TV in just 4 easy steps. Step 1, select your package. Step 2, create your login details. Step 3, set up your payment. Step 4, start watching. It's simpler than you think with more perks than you can imagine. Explore the latest news on LN24 International, Bible classics, language-specific stations, and so much more. Get Alpha TV. Watch now. The higher life is here.
Welcome back. After more than 9 months aboard the International Space Station, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams have begun their return journey to Earth. The astronauts, along with NASA's Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, undocked from the ISS at 1:05 a.m. Tuesday, aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule.
Confirmed.
They are scheduled to splash down off the coast of Florida at 5:57 p.m. Wilmore and Williams initially traveled to the ISS in June 2024 aboard Boeing's Starliner, which was expected to return them to Earth after a week-long mission. However, technical issues with the spacecraft led NASA to bring the Starliner back empty, extending their stay aboard the station for several months while a return plan was developed. NASA's acting administrator, Jeanette Petro, coordinated the astronauts' return, working with SpaceX to facilitate the mission. Crew 10, consisting of NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers, JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov, arrived at the ISS on Sunday to take over operations, allowing Wilmore and Williams to depart. The return mission follows standard safety protocols, with SpaceX handling the transport as part of its ongoing partnership with NASA. Officials have already confirmed further details on the astronauts' recovery and return process that will be released in the coming days. With their journey now underway, Wilmore and Williams are expected and have completed their mission and returned to Earth safely, concluding their extended stay aboard the ISS. Watch this.
Beginning to see that plasma trail as Dragon re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. All of that is expected. Altitude plane. And there you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
You can hear the crowd here.
And Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That
Copy,
was
600.
That was a live view from our recovery vessel off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
With the Trump administration's reciprocal tariff policy set to take effect on April 2nd, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed optimism that some trading partners are already seeking negotiations to reduce tariffs before they are implemented. Speaking on a recent Fox interview, Bessent noted that some of the worst offenders in terms of trade barriers have begun offering significant tariff reductions to avoid penalties. I'm optimistic that by April 2nd, some tariffs may not have to be imposed because pre-negotiated deals could be reached, Bessent stated. He added that countries receiving their reciprocal tariff numbers may come back to the table seeking adjustments, which could lead to further negotiations. The reciprocal tariff policy, signed by Trump a month ago, aims to match tariffs imposed on American goods by other nations, forcing foreign governments to either lower their own tariffs or face increased levies on exports to the U.S. While specific details on tariff rates have not yet been disclosed, President Trump clarified that countries could avoid tariffs altogether by eliminating their own trade restrictions on American goods. Some economists argue that tariffs function as taxes on imports, often passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices. However, White House officials continue to insist that the policy will not hurt U.S. jobs or drive up costs. Secretary Bessent further emphasized that certain nations, referred to as the Dirty 15, impose steep tariffs and regulatory barriers on American exports, many of which are unrelated to safety or fair trade practices. The administration is also facing concerns over proposed tariffs on European goods, including Trump's potential 200% tariff on European alcohol, which has already led to uncertainty among retailers and consumers. Despite criticism, the The Trump team maintains that the tariff strategy is a win-win for American businesses, pushing other nations to open their markets or risk losing access to the U.S. economy. Watch this interview.
It's going to be a big day. We're going to roll out the reciprocal tariffs. But what I can tell you, and I would encourage your viewers and the public and the media to follow, going into April 2nd, and already now we've seen some of our most imbalanced trading partners come forward and want to drop their tariffs. So by President Trump pushing forward with a tariff plan, reciprocal tariffs, if you drop yours, we'll drop ours. We are already seeing some of the worst offenders come down. April 2nd is an important day, but I would also tell everyone to look what happens from April 2nd to, say, June 30th as the other countries come down too. And President Trump's created a win-win situation here. Either the tariff barriers come down, the U.S. can export more, trade is fairer. It's always been free, but not fair. And then we, or if they don't do it, we'll take in substantial revenue.
General Motors and NVIDIA have announced a strategic collaboration to integrate artificial intelligence and advanced computing technology into GM's next-generation vehicles, manufacturing processes, and driver assistance systems. The partnership expands GM's use of NVIDIA AI-driven computing platforms, including Omniverse with Cosmos for factory planning and NVIDIA Drive AGX for future in-vehicle safety and automation features. The deal marks a significant step for NVIDIA's expansion into the automotive sector, where the company has already worked on GPU-driven AI applications in simulation, validation, and digital twin technology. GM has been testing NVIDIA's Omniverse since 2022, using it to develop a virtual replica of its design center, enabling employees to collaborate within a single digital environment to streamline vehicle development. While GM has not disclosed the cost of the new AI tools, the company previously debated the value of NVIDIA's high-priced GPUs compared to other options. However, growing competition from China and shifting regulatory policies, including tariffs, may have influenced the decision. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang emphasized the transformative potential of the partnership, stating, "The era of physical AI is here, and together with GM, we're transforming transportation from vehicles to the factories where they're made." GM CEO Mary Barra highlighted how AI is reshaping the automotive industry, noting AI not only optimizes manufacturing processes and accelerates virtual testing, but also helps us build smarter vehicles while empowering our workforce to focus on craftsmanship. She added that combining technology with human ingenuity will unlock new levels of innovation across vehicle production and design. The partnership announcement coincides with NVIDIA's GTC AI conference, where NVIDIA has showcased Omniverse as a tool for industrial digitalization. The platform allows companies like GM to create digital twins of physical environments, optimizing operations in real time. Other major automakers, including BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, and BYD, have also adopted NVIDIA's system-on-a-chip hardware for central computing and smart vehicles. Let's take a look.
I'm super excited to announce that GM has selected NVIDIA to partner with them to build their future self-driving car fleet. The time for autonomous vehicles has arrived, and we're looking forward to building with GM AI in all three areas. AI for manufacturing, so they can revolutionize the way they manufacture. AI for enterprise, so they can revolutionize the way they work, design cars and simulate cars, and then also AI for in the car. So AI infrastructure for GM, partnering with GM, and building with GM their AI. So I'm super excited.
The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
It's only been 44 days, but the president will have a lot to talk about tonight when he heads up to Capitol Hill to address a joint...
6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America.
Inaugurate a new president and vice president.
From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back. Our Our spirit is back. Our pride is back. Members of Congress, and to my fellow citizens, America is back. Americans have given us a mandate for bold and profound change. Every day my administration is fighting to bring a future that America deserves. We are draining the swamp, and the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. Over the past 6 weeks, I have signed nearly 100 executive orders and taken more than 400 executive actions to restore common sense, safety, optimism, and wealth all across our wonderful land. Despite the best efforts of those who will try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free. My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future, because the golden age of America has only just begun. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Good to see you again. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has officially collapsed after nearly 2 months, with Israeli forces launching renewed airstrikes across Gaza, southern Lebanon, and southern Syria. The Israeli Defense Forces and Israel Security Agency, also known as Shin Bet, announced that the head of the Hamas government in Gaza, Essam al-Da'alis, was killed in the strikes, along with other senior Hamas officials responsible for the terror group's internal security and governance. The ceasefire agreement, which began on January 19th, was meant to facilitate the release of hostages held by Hamas in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. However, Hamas refused to release additional hostages, leading Israel to resume its military campaign. The IDF targeted key Hamas operatives, infrastructure, and military sites to degrade its operational capabilities and prevent further attacks on Israel. The Gaza-based Hamas-run health ministry reported at least 404 Palestinian casualties, though these figures have not been independently verified. The Trump administration backed Israel's decision to resume military operations, with the National Security Council spokesman Brian Hughes stating that Hamas could have released hostages to extend the ceasefire, but instead chose refusal and war. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz warned that if Hamas does not release all remaining hostages, the gates of hell will open in Gaza. He vowed that Israel will continue fighting until all hostages are freed and Hamas's military capabilities are dismantled. In response, Hamas accused Israel of violating the ceasefire and called on the United Nations and Muslim nations to intervene. The group demanded a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and a permanent end to the war as conditions for releasing additional hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, however, has rejected any deal that does not lead to the full dismantling of Hamas. Let's watch this.
Hamas is responsible for this war. It invaded our towns, murdered our people, raped our women, and kidnapped our loved ones. Hamas refused offer after offer to release our hostages. In the past 2 weeks, Israel did not initiate any military action in the hope that Hamas would change course. Well, that didn't happen. While Israel accepted the offer of President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, Hamas flatly refused to do so. And this is why I authorized yesterday the renewal of military action against Hamas. Israel does not target Palestinian civilians. We target Hamas terrorists. And when these terrorists embed themselves in civilian areas, when they use civilians as human shields, they're the ones who are responsible for all unintended casualties. Palestinian civilians should avoid any contact with Hamas terrorists. And I call on the people of Gaza, get out of harm's way, move to safer areas. Because every civilian casualty is a tragedy. And every civilian casualty is the fault of Hamas. I thank President Trump for his unwavering support for Israel. Our alliance with the United States has never been stronger. To those who criticize Israel, I ask, what would you do if terrorists murdered and kidnapped your children? You would do what we are doing. In the face of pure evil, Free societies have no choice but to fight. So I want to assure all our friends around the world, Israel will fight and Israel will win. We will bring our people home and we will destroy Hamas. We will not relent until we achieve all these vital goals. And we will not rest until we give our country a future of peace, prosperity, and hope.
French authorities have evacuated more than 400 migrants from La Gaîté Lyrique Theatre in Paris, where they had been squatting for over 3 months. The police operation, which took place on Tuesday, March 18th, resulted in 46 arrests, though it remains unclear if all those detained were migrants, as clashes also erupted with activists supporting the squatters. The evacuation, which began with tear gas deployment, was largely carried out without major incidents, according to Reuters. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo defended the decision, stating, "At this stage, this was the thing to do because the situation was becoming a complicated, tense, and dangerous situation inside." The Paris police prefect, Laurent Nunez, described the occupation of the historically significant performance hall as a threat to public order. Some of those arrested were accused of rebelling against police, while others were detained for administrative checks, according to Le Monde. The Gaîté Lyrique Theatre suspended its operations in December, just days after the migrants began occupying the venue, demanding food and shelter. Theater officials criticized the authorities' lack of response, with reports indicating that the government had failed to provide an adequate solution for the displaced individuals. Watch this.
Shortly before 6 a.m., police in Paris begin the eviction, removing nearly 450 migrants living in the historic Gaîté Lyrique Theatre. Since December, the group has occupied the building as part of their demand for shelter. Many are unaccompanied minors.
I'm really hurt. A country that has colonized your country cannot treat you like that.
We had no place to go. We were sleeping outside and we needed a roof so that we don't have to spend the night outdoors. Because this winter has been really cold here. So we had no choice but to occupy the Gaîté Lyrique.
While police briefly used tear gas and arrested 46 people, the eviction was mostly without incident. Emergency housing agents met with migrants on site. The theater's occupation had become a symbol of the standoff between left-wing activists fighting for migrant rights and the far right calling for their expulsion. Hundreds of demonstrators were outside the theater in solidarity with the migrants.
I find it scandalous that the French state isn't capable of showing enough humanity to accommodate these young people who are struggling at home, who come here to integrate, to work, and who sleep outside.
The eviction happened as French authorities take steps to tighten immigration policies in the country. It's a decision that reflects a rightward shift in French politics and among the public.
And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. President Trump and President Putin agreed to begin ceasefire talks in Middle East, White House says. House GOP moves to impeach judge who blocked Trump's Tren de Aragua deportation flights. President Trump's surprise JFK files release triggers overnight scramble at DOJ. Stranded NASA astronauts begin return to Earth after 9 months in space. Treasury Secretary Besson optimistic on trade talks as tariff deadline approaches. GM and NVIDIA partner to drive AI integration in next-generation vehicles and factories. Ceasefire ends as Israel resumes strikes on Gaza following Hamas's refusal to release hostages. French police evict hundreds of migrants from Paris Theatre after months of squatting. And that's the news for today. Join us same time tomorrow for more news. I'm TGK Andre. Good night and God bless you.